I don't feel like the investigation has much integrity or the feds in general have any integrity. I'm not inclined to believe any of this at this moment. We are not getting the truth right now of what happened to Charlie Kirk on 9/10. And to be very clear, I am going to need it. I demand it.
Candace Owens just slammed the FBI for misleading us all about Charlie Kirk's assassination, and in this clip, she points out some of the inconsistencies in the FBI's narrative, Kash Patel's shift in terms of messaging on this, and some of the things that point in other directions than what we've been told. So let's get her take on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
In fact, I'm now currently working on a minute-by-minute timeline, which I will have for you guys later this week, of what exactly happened in the seconds and minutes following Charlie getting shot. I need to know. I need to follow bodies. I've already been able to, as I asked over the weekend, locate George Zinn in the crowd. It seems a bit suspicious to me how far he was, and then suddenly they take him through a pathway. I mean, that's him right there. Thank you to the person that sent this picture. But then I find him on video, and I'm trying to understand how he made it down the pathway and was taken through to the same area that they had just taken Charlie in the car. I have a lot of questions, and each and every one of them will be answered by the end of this investigation. And I also want to put it to you this way. So much more has come to light that I have not yet presented. I am working with other journalists, different aspects, asking them, hey, you look into this, I'm going to look into that. And the first thing that I think I should make abundantly clear is I am relieved that Erica Kirk is at the head of Turning Point USA, because just like I alluded to last week, and which I will double down on now, I believe that people within that company betrayed Charlie. Okay? That's just what I believe right now. And I want to make sure that I have these facts entirely on my side before I tell you guys more. I will say, if you are a rat on a ship, you should probably flee now.
I would not want to face the wrath of Candace, but I do want to comment on something she said earlier. There's not much that piques my curiosity about George Zinn's location, but what he told authorities does pique my interest. I think the George Zinn arrest and kind of the decoy factor in all this is weird, to say the very least. The fact that he told authorities once arrested that he was trying to help the real shooter escape after initially claiming to be the shooter. Apparently after they took him away, that's what he said. And people haven't really made any kind of connection between him and this claimed shooter by the FBI, Tyler Robinson. But at the same time, man, like, even if mental illness enters into that equation, a lot of insane people would not say that, right, if there wasn't a connection. So I think that's worth exploring more than a lot of other factors. I'm glad she's keeping her eye on this. As far as betrayals within Turning Point USA, not sure what you're implying there, but we've seen nothing to suggest, you know, anyone from Turning Point was involved in this murder, at least from what I've seen. But you know, I'm all ears. This is a story. I'm willing to take in new information. And like many stories in 6 months, hey, we could be singing a different tune on some things. And I'm glad that Candace is covering it.
I recommend it. Anyways, you guys, on Friday, we did an episode. I want to be clear, I didn't think that that episode was going to have the reaction that it did, but I am grateful. We were unpacking the footage that was going viral of the guy that was taking down the camera, which was directly behind Charlie's head, a mere approximate 4 minutes after Charlie was shot. Everybody thought that it was very suspicious. I recognized the individual and reached out, had a conversation, saw the footage, and made the promise that I was not going to share it. Although I said to you, I encouraged them to share it. I believe that the reason everybody is a conspiracy theorist is because people don't share truth. Right? Once you share everything, there's no room for conspiracy. And when I was sharing what I saw, I was doing so because I was just thinking that, you know, this could help. Like, this can obviously remove people from their conspiracies. And then it kind of occurred to me that what I shared was a bigger deal than I had imagined by saying that I didn't see any blood. And that is a fact. I did not see any blood. In fact, the only blood that I did see at all, I'm talking about blood on the back, was on Charlie's hand, on Charlie's left hand, which, as many people have been saying, means that the blood moved forward We don't need to get into all of the gore. But what I didn't expect thereafter was for the Turning Point USA spokesperson, Andrew Colvett, to issue this statement as people were asking questions like, hey, how is that possible? How was there nothing in the back if this is the gun that was used? Andrew Colvett tweeted this over the weekend. I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of this kind of online chatter, and I apologize that this is somewhat graphic. But in this case, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound is probably another miracle, and I want people to know. I just spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital. He said the bullet, quote, absolutely should have gone through, which is very, very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc. End quote. And then now this is Andrew. But it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. I mentioned to his doctor that there were dozens of staff, students, and special guests standing directly behind Charlie on the other side of the tent, and he replied, it was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. His bone, referring to Charlie, was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the Man of Steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too.
This Man of Steel narrative is what they're going with. And what I think was really interesting beyond that and the questions that raises, which there are some of those, is that this says that the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Now, we had been told in other reporting that the bullet hadn't been located. So which is it? Is it true that they have the bullet? Does the FBI have the bullet? Have ballistic tests been performed on the bullet to link it to the rifle that they have? These are questions we really want to know, and we really want to have the autopsy too, which it's going to be up to the family as to whether or not to release that. I really hope they do release it. This is a very public killing involving a very public individual. I would understand misgivings if families don't want to reveal that, their perspective on that, but I would love to have that information to see if it conforms to this and, see what that has to say.
In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. Remarkable and miraculous. End statement. Now, first, I want to say this because people were attacking Andrew Colvett immediately. I want to say that it is good to remember that this is Andrew Colvett's literal job, okay? He is a PR agent. He runs a PR company, and his job is to respond to online chatter and online questions. And sometimes it may not even be what you want to say. In fact, it should never actually, if you're going to do your job, be necessarily what you want to say. He also was very close to Charlie. So I would imagine that he's under a tremendous amount of pressure. The company is moving into a different direction. We are still just over a week after Charlie lost his life. And he has to be the messenger. Who is directing that message? We don't know, but his job can't be easy at this moment, okay? If I say to my PR agent, I want you to make this statement, he works for the company, my PR person just has to make the statement, okay? So I think I would like to just respond to what is being said objectively rather than to attack Andrew Colvett's character. That aside, the statement objectively feels to me like the manipulation of a Christian audience, right? They know Charlie's audience is Christian. And therefore, what they're selling to us is you should believe, you're a believer, right? As a Christian, you believe in miracles, right? Like you believe in Christ and the miracles that Jesus performed, right? Well, then you should just believe this.
Yeah, I gotta mostly actually agree with her here. I mean, this Man of Steel narrative isn't cutting muster. A lot of us Christians don't believe that, God performs like these kind of miracles today. A lot of the miracles that happen is the answering of prayers and providing us with strength, and not necessarily, raising Lazarus from the dead or creating loaves and fish, out of small numbers of loaves of fish and bread. This is something that you're going to have to justify. It has to be justified scientifically or else people aren't going to buy it. And, you know, I got to say here that that does seem to ring true with what she's saying about this and how this can be twisted to an audience that might be somewhat willing to accept it, at least some of them. But, you know, there has to be scientific proof behind it too, or we're not all going to buy it. Like, that's my viewpoint.
There's something about that I don't like. I don't like that. I don't just, this was a miracle and that should just be the end and no more questions should be asked. Yes, the conservative base is filled with Christians, but also the conservative base is filled with a lot of hunters, okay? People that hunt and they know weapons and they know how weapons work and they know how weapons don't work. And this particular statement to me does not pass the sniff test. Now, again, when I shared that information, I had assumed they were going to say the angle went through this. I did not imagine they were just going to say that it was a miracle. Alex Jones immediately took to X Live. This began trending. The statement began trending, and he jumped onto X, and he responded to that statement saying this. Take a listen.
The spokesperson for TPUSA just posted 2 hours ago that they talked to the coroner and that Charlie Kirk was shot with a .30-06 in the left side of his neck, the carotid artery, and that he's a man of steel, and that the bones in his neck that are like chicken bones stopped a bullet that travels 2,500 feet a second out of the barrel at 200 yards, depending on the grain of the cartridge and the rest of it. Probably hit him at 1,900 feet per second. I've shot hogs at 500 yards, 30-06, right to the side. Tiny hole, blows a 4-inch hole out the other side. We're talking through 2 feet of a hog. Boom. Hit him in the head, brain completely blows out. They just said he got shot with a 30-06 and that it didn't go through.
Yeah, I think it's time to chime in on that. I do want to hear what Candace has to say, but I happen to have a friend that's a licensed firearm instructor and an expert on weaponry in general. And this is what he said about this, because he's been following this case a little bit too. He said, you know, a lot of people are insistent that a bullet will do this or a bullet will do that. But so many people have no idea how many different bullet types there are, and that many of them are designed to do the opposite of what some people initially assume. Just a lot of speculation involved in this. And he goes on to say, for the record, I saw a ballistic tip from a 30-06 hit a doe one time. It hit the shoulder bone and fragmented on impact, which means it did not even penetrate the deer. Different bullet types can do vastly different things under different circumstances. There's no easy answer to all of this with a lot more information coming out, until a lot more information comes out. So that's his take on this. You know, maybe different bullet types, even if they are 30-06, will perform differently. Some will go through 2 feet of hog and blow out the back. Some might, you know, hit a shoulder bone and fragment on impact. And, you know, we have to assume maybe that's true about this case too. I'm not saying definitively one way or another on that. It's just something to think about here. Also, regarding the film that she said that she saw, and I have no reason to doubt her, by the way, she saw the film from the back that was captured from that back camera. The cameraman did provide that to the FBI, according to Turning Point USA. So that is part of the investigation, and I hope we see that footage. But Candace has said, yeah, she didn't see blood or an exit wound, but I don't think anyone's claimed that they've seen an entry wound from the back, too. And that's a prevalent theory here, that the shot came from the back, but I don't think that anyone that's watched the footage has even claimed that either. So just two things to think about here as we think about this topic, but let's see what she has to say.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to process. And here's the thing. If you were going to bring me to the argument that this truly was a miracle, it probably would not be in the midst of a circumstance where the feds are lying, right? That is like, not now, right? Because it could be a miracle also that Tyler Robinson decided to take a break at Dairy Queen and issue some texts that sound like they were written in 1822. And
I presume she's saying that because he said "my love." I can't I don't discern any other reference to like early 19th century vernacular there outside of maybe my love, but let me know if you think otherwise. You guys know my opinions on the text messages. I won't repeat them here. But is that what you guys think she's referring to there?
Tell every single, it could just be a miracle, right, for the feds and go through every single detail of exactly how he planned it, why he planned it, including his MAGA dad, who's been extra MAGA lately, that he doesn't actually live with, and nobody knows why the dad is extra MAGA lately, and explaining where to find the weapon, and just a miracle that he happened to leave this letter that has since been disappeared. But they, he took a picture, his lover took a picture of it. It could just all be one big federal miracle. But I'm not inclined to believe that at this moment. Okay, I'm not.
Well, if you don't believe it, he's probably going to walk. He can't serve as a patsy because those records are going to be subpoenaed. As far as the note, the feds have said that has to be digitally reconstructed. I don't know what they mean by that. If they mean like they're piecing together small pieces of a paper and that's how it was destroyed or something, that I haven't heard much from outside of, when this was initially discussed. And, even if this doesn't go to trial, his defense team can still subpoena the records. They can still check the phone. And if it's an iPhone, I know that they're essentially uncrackable. They're unable to be de-encrypted because of what happened in the San Bernardino shooting in 2016. Back then, you had prominent politicians like Ted Cruz pleading Apple to develop software that would allow them to decrypt encrypted devices, and Apple refused, citing privacy concerns on that and the implications that would have for everyone. I don't think they've ever reversed their position on that. And you guys tell me if I'm wrong down below, but I looked into this too, and I don't think they have. And we know that the feds took multiple devices from this guy's property. So defense would have access to that too as part of the discovery process. So if these were falsified, this guy's either going to walk or they're going to off him. But even if they're going to off him, they're going to be able to get to these records.
Inclined to believe any of this at this moment. And so we press on. Okay. And because Alex and many other people and hunters and conservatives were going, yeah, no. I mean, people were even posting videos of them shooting to show what that damage would be like. Cash Patel then made an extraordinary move. And I would refer to this as a capitulation to online sleuths. He tweeted this. He wrote, as the director of the FBI, I am committed to ensuring the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination is thorough and exhaustive, pursuing every lead to its conclusion. The full weight of America's law enforcement agencies are actively following the evidence that has emerged, but our efforts extend beyond initial findings. We are examining every facet of this assassination. We are meticulously investigating theories and questions, including the location from where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, the text message confession and related conversations, Discord chats, the angle of the shot and bullet impact, how the weapon was transported, hand gestures observed as potential signals near Charlie at the time of his assassination, and visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and the days leading up to September 10th, 2025. Some details are known today, while others are still being pursued to ensure every possibility is considered. Our primary focus is to complete this investigation and deliver justice. To protect the integrity of the investigation and subsequent prosecution, we cannot release every piece of information that we have to the public right now. We will ensure every question is addressed at the appropriate moment regarding specific details, such as questions about the plane that allegedly turned off its transponder after departing from an airport near the assassination site. We can share updates when answers are confirmed. After interviews with the pilot and consultation with the FAA, we determined the transponder was not turned off. Incomplete flight data in rural areas caused the apparent gap.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's talking about a lot of the theories that internet sleuths have come up with because of this. I think understandably so, how there's been inconsistencies in even their initial narratives, the FBI, compared to the modern one, including how the gun was transported and initially it was assembled, then disassembled, and then reassembled, and discarded. and we have different inconsistencies about the type of clothing he was wearing. And in the indictment document, you don't have that information about the maroon clothing, which they initially pointed to. Some of these things are interesting, and he's pretending like he's very open and honest about this, but we know that the FBI isn't open and honest about investigations. If you don't know that, you can just look to, January 6th entrapment and the pipe bombs and Waco and Ruby Ridge and COINTELPRO wiretapping Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Stokely Carmichael and, the FBI's role in so many atrocities. And the MLK assassination, and MLK's family believes that the FBI was responsible, and a civil jury determined that the FBI was responsible for Martin Luther King's death in 1998 in Memphis. If you don't believe me, look that up. That blows a lot of people's minds, but that is true. After all this, we know that the FBI can't be trusted. So I think that this is just an optics response the more I think of it. Sagar from Breaking Point said that, well, this is interesting because it's opening the door to some things and might be a way in which the feds are trying to preempt some of these things. They already know the answer to some of these things, and there might be something there, and they want to get ahead of it before they release information so they don't look like they're just totally blindsided and, completely made to look like fools by internet sleuths. I guess we'll have to see, but what I can say is that if anything comes out of this that contradicts the Fed's narrative that they've already laid out, I'd be absolutely shocked, because that will jeopardize this case. If they're coming out and saying, hey, we made some mistakes on some of these text messages, there's some wrong words here or there, or, there were Discord chats in addition to these text messages, or stuff like, there's evidence that the hand signals indicated some collaboration with the shooter. If anything like that comes out, this is going to totally jeopardize the case. I don't think they're willing to even do that. I think this is just to quell the apprehensions and trepidations people following this case have.
The entire FBI mourns the loss of Charlie Kirk. We will not rest until justice is served, and our investigation into this assassination will continue until every question is answered. Okay, so first thing that I can very quickly debunk is when he says that they looked into the transponder thing, and yeah, we checked it out, and actually they just lost service. Okay, that disputes what the plane owner themselves, he identified himself, Derek Maxfield, and issued a long statement on Instagram where he said that they got permission to, turn off services, which are transponder services, and they got that permission from the air traffic controller. So it can't be both. It can't be, no, it never happened, they just lost service, and Derek Maxfield saying, no, we had communication with the ATC, which is air traffic control, and what we did followed guidelines. So that's already a problem. Secondly, saying that you're not going to release information because you want to protect the integrity of the investigation while also releasing those ridiculous text messages that looked like somebody was having fun on TikTok and making, a ridiculous skit. I don't feel like the investigation has much integrity, or the feds in general have any integrity after you guys gaslit us about Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, isn't that the truth, man? And we're trusting this same vile 3-letter agency to investigate this and give us the proper answers, right? After the Epstein scandal, the Epstein cover-up that we were supposed to get transparency on. It was one of the cornerstones of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino's rise to prominence in the deep state now. But yeah, I just wanted to make clear, I think she's mostly right about what the owner of that plane said. Right here, you can see, though, that it was in mutual agreement, according to the plane's owner, with the Denver FAA Center. I think she said the different organization, but apparently turning off the radar services was a mutual agreement that's been recorded. And I think she said that that was a mutual agreement with a different organization than the FAA. Just want to be clear about that. But I think she's mostly right about that. So we'll have to see what comes from that, too.
Okay. So if you want us to, or if you want to restore credibility to the feds, I would allow the mommy sleuths to take over. That's my opinion. I'd get in touch and allow the internet to do what the internet does, because now you're answering everything that we brought up. Not me, we, because it is because of the entire world paying attention, sending tips. I'm grateful to God that I have a platform to be able to share that information and to encourage it. But this is just coming from regular people around the world. And now you guys are it feels like playing defense because you have not been playing offense. So yeah, that would be my free advice that's not going to be listened to.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, this is a product of the new digital age in which we live, in which, you know, people very close to these events get them recorded in 4K, can do various analysis, dive down different rabbit holes and different areas. This has always been the case, but it's even more possible now with the prominence of social media and sharing your findings, and that's interesting. I'm not sure what to think of this. Kash Patel weighing into this. I think you can look at it two ways. You know, one, that they're just making optics here to make it look like they're doing something where they're not. Another thing is they're trying to get ahead of something that they know already from what they have is true, that internet sleuths found out, and are using this as the precursor to reveal that and say, like, you know, we handled this appropriately. We didn't, you know, try to shove this under the rug, even though maybe they did shove some of these things under the rug. Or it's something that would be just said as a matter of, you know, they're not completely sure on their narrative. They released stuff too early and, you know, too stupidly, and their narrative was too screwy in the first place. I think that is especially true regarding the gun disassembly and assembly narrative and the narrative about his clothing. Certainly so. I mean, they've changed their mind on those two general things. And, you know, when he talks about all the evidence can't be provided, it will be provided at the appropriate time. I hope that means we're going to get, like, the stairwell footage of this guy instead of two pictures that are grainy, maybe more imagery from the roof, because we only have his roof leap down afterward, which happened, like, I forgot on this case, but it happened like something like a minute after the shot. He had 8 minutes on the roof, according to the FBI narrative. At 12:15, he gets on the roof. At 12:23, he takes the shot, and I think it's like 1 minute later that he jumps off, right? So, I don't know. I love that Candace is following this. You know, we agree on certain things, we disagree on certain things, but either way, us both agree that the FBI can't be trusted. It's a shady, nefarious organization that has burned women and children alive in Waco and has covered up a giant sex trafficking ring, probably involving a foreign intelligence service, and using blackmail to conduct that operation with people of prominence throughout the world and the United States, the legal community, the business world, the political world, etc. So we can't trust them. We can't trust especially this FBI that is such a bad track record already. And hopefully we'll get more answers. Hopefully more answers will come in. We'll have more data to deduce what we think about it. But I do want to hear from you. Let me know down below, what do you think about it? What do you think is the most compelling evidence that disrupts this Fed narrative? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, also subscribe to Candace. Thank you, Candace, for your awesome coverage of this case. And please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you can help support the channel. I'll tip my hat to you in appreciation if you go to that length to support me. But also for that, I'll give you a return gift. I'll give you the ability to access all of my members only videos. Those are the videos that are only available to my members to view until they go live to the general public on YouTube. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.